Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Callie, and today I'm going to be going through my top 5 reads for May. May was a relatively good reading month. For my stats, I read a total of 24 books, totaling 8,561 pages. I ended up DNFing 9 books in May. I read 15 books in print, 7 ebooks, and listened to 2 audiobooks. The breakdown for genre of books that I did read were fantasy at a total of 14, romance at 6, and then thriller, sci-fi, historical, and contemporary all at 1. So that is my breakdown for the month of May. And I gathered the top 5 that I had. I will share with you my thoughts, feelings, reviews of all of these books. So starting off, in no particular order, I have the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I really like The Sundown Motel when I read it a year or so ago. And when I saw that Simone St. James had a new thriller, I immediately grabbed it from Book of the Month. And this book is so interesting, very similar to The Sundown Motel in the retrospect that we have 2 main timelines, one in the 70s and one in present day, where a young woman who's kind of down on her luck in life following a divorce, she essentially runs this true crime blog in her free time, and she also works with this PI guy who we meet later. But one of the most famous things in the town that she's from is the Lady Killer murders, which was pinned on this rich heiress in the 70s. And the woman ended up being acquitted. But when Shay, our main character, sees this woman at the doctor's office, she gathers up the courage to approach her. And when the woman Beth actually agrees to be interviewed because she finally feels the need to let the world know the truth, it becomes this really fascinating back and forth story. This book really reminded me of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It was set up very similar to that, where we're going back and forth in Beth's life as we try and figure out her backstory, the actual Lady Killer murders. There's also like this huge, weird haunted house, ghostly presence going on as well that is freaking Shay out to the nines. I had to finish this book because I needed the conclusion because it was freaking me out too much. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. If you like a good creepy thriller, would highly recommend this one. Up next, I have Blood Scion by Deborah Falaya. I went into this with such high hopes, and I was not disappointed. This story follows a world where they hunt people who are essentially descendants of gods. Our main character, Sloane, has been in hiding because she is a descendant of the god of heat and flame, and she's been in hiding for most of her life. But when she ends up getting conscripted to the child soldiers unit of her country, she is thrust into even more dangerous territory. So she ends up befriending a couple of people through her training, while also at the same time trying to hide herself and figure out what happened to her mother. Because when our story starts off, we are understanding that Sloane's mother disappeared, and people thought that she ran away with her best friend's dad, causing this huge scandal, and all Sloane wanted to do was clear her mother's name. And she ends up trying to do that while at this training camp, while trying to figure out a way to escape the training camp so that she doesn't herself get killed, or that she doesn't have to actually become a child soldier and kill people like her. And it is so intense and very hard to read at times, but it was so well written. The world is extremely vibrant. The magic system is really cool because they're not the typical gods with powers. They are, but they aren't. Like this one, it wasn't just god of fire. They were also the god of heat. And that gets woven in differently than how normal just fire would. And I found that to be really interesting. And there were a lot of other powers that were described based off of the gods. And I highly enjoyed this. I'm really excited for book 2. Really sad that I have to wait a year, but it is what it is. I will definitely be picking up book 2 when it drops next year. Up next, I have Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is one of the books everyone suggests when you are looking to get into Colleen Hoover. And I don't know, I didn't put this off for any particular reason. It's just I got to it when I got to it. I was not prepared for Verity. Verity is a romance thriller, erring more on the thriller aspect than the romance aspect, which is very different from all the other Colleen Hoover books I've read. But holy crap, was this a wild ride. You are following this young woman who is a struggling author, and she has just dealt with the death of her mother and has essentially hit this huge writer's block. But her agents are able to get this opportunity for Lowen to become a ghostwriter for a very famous mystery author, because that author has been in a coma and her husband doesn't want her fans to be disappointed and wants them to see the end of the series because he knows that's what his wife would want. So Lowen ends up going to stay with the husband, their son, and the author herself is in a vegetative state upstairs with a caregiver 100% of the time. And he seems like a very attentive husband. The child's a little creepy because it's a 5-year-old saying weird, creepy things. And Lowen ends up finding this manuscript to her autobiography and starts reading it, and it is disturbing. The things that she describes, because this family has been dealing with tragedies nonstop the past couple of months. They lost their twin daughters in 2 separate accidents, and then the car crash to the wife happened. And you see the grief the dad is going through, and then the son, he's trying to be a good dad, and then Lowen's reading this manuscript trying to be like, I shouldn't read this, but I can't stop. And do I tell the husband, like, he's such a good husband, and the things she's describing are awful. And it again, very similar to not similar to Blood Scion, but I had to put it down every so often and just ruminate with what I had just read. You definitely have to be in the right mindset to read this book, but it is so good. And I swear to God, I finished this book at midnight like a week or so ago, and I almost threw it because I was so shocked by the plot twist at the end. It was insane. And I am still thinking about this book because it's so wild and I don't even know what to think. Up next is an entire series that I binge read over a weekend, and that is the Awakens series by Elise Koa. After these books, so I stopped reading Trial of Sorcerers and picked up this one immediately. So I picked up book 1, fell in love with it, picked up book 2, and then I don't really know what happened, and then I was finishing the entire series. And I've been slowly getting the hardcover copies because they're gorgeous and they have like secret art on them. And I'm obsessed. I have books 1 through 3 currently, and I'll be getting 4 and 5 eventually. I want to get them all so I can get them all signed by Elise Koa because I am obsessed. I am definitely going to be reading the Golden Guard trilogy this month, and then moving on to there's the Vortex Visions series is after that. Then I believe it is the Trial of Sorcerers books. I have a couple of series to get through before I get to the Trial of Sorcerers, which is okay. I love this world. I love these characters. It is Avatar meets political intrigue meets forbidden romance, and I loved every second of this. I don't think I gave any of the 5 books lower than a 4.5 stars. I will say books 3, I think it was, 4 and 5. It might have been 3 and 5. Definitely 5. I gave 5 stars. The rest I think were 4.5. Just the pacing is it's fast, but it's not overwhelming. The story itself is so much fun. The different types of elemental magics and the things people can do with their elemental magics. The characters are very distinct and a lot of fun. And the author's not afraid to Game of Thrones people, and I was not prepared for that from a YA novel. I will say, I 100% recommend these. They are on Kindle Unlimited, and please go read them. They're amazing. The last book is probably my favorite book that I read in the month of May, and that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie. This follows a young girl who sacrifices herself for her brother's happiness by taking the place of his brother's, but not betrothed, but crush, essentially, and uses herself as the sacrifice to satiate the sea god, because there's a very pretty girl who sacrifices herself to try and break the sea god's curse. No girl has been successful. We're following Mina as she tries to navigate this underwater world with all of these mythical creatures and gods, and tries to figure out what this curse is and how to solve it. I loved Mina. She was not the typical, I'm going to do what I want type of girl. She was there she had a job, she got it done, but she was also very demure and feminine, and I really liked that about her. She was a lot of fun to follow. I also loved that this was a standalone. It was all in one book, which was fantastic. The story's pacing was immaculate. The imagery was perfection. And I loved the threads of fate aspect that was throughout this entire story. It reminded me very much of Spin the Dawn and that duology. And I fell in love with this world as well as Mina did. And I don't know, I can't say enough great things about this book. Everything about it was perfection to me. Those are my top 5 books that I read in the month of May. I am really excited to see what June holds. I'm already really enjoying my reread of A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I forgot how much I love this series. And I also just finished A Kinder Poison, which was fantastic. And so far it's gearing up to be a really good reading month again. Hopefully I DNF less books, but we shall see. And that's gonna be it for today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, with the occasional Sunday. And I'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!